It's Tuesday, December 9th, 2008, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville. Produced and distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C., this is your NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about our show at our website, stash.normal.org, and continue the education and conversation on our blog as well. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. The podcasting and blogging technology for the NORML Daily Audio Stash is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. For your professional web design needs, visit redaphid.com. Good day, Stashers, and welcome to the podcast. Sorry I missed you yesterday on Monday, but the deadlines are closing in for this weekend's Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards, the 7th annual, which takes place this Saturday at the Ambridge Event Center in Portland, Oregon. And I'm presenting there at the awards, so there's a number of presentations I have to put together, as well as the program. Alan St. Pierre, the executive director of NORML, is going to be in Portland this weekend attending the Medical Cannabis Awards, and we'll have all the results and interviews for you on the podcast next week. Now, while we were gone, there's a couple of things that popped up on the stash radar here that I thought were kind of important to highlight. You may have caught my post on Barry Cooper's new project called Cop Busters. You may know Barry Cooper from the videos Never Get Busted Again. He's a former narcotics cop who switched sides after he realized the war on drugs was a cruel and unnecessary failure. Check out the video on the Stash blog at stash.normal.org. This new Cop Busters project has Barry Cooper setting up fake grow sites where they're growing mini Christmas trees and then busting the cops who come in without a warrant or without probable cause to search that house for what they believed would be a marijuana grow. Also, I want to thank all of you who are participating in the Stash Pot quizzes. Check the right side of the Stash blog for our latest quizzes that'll pop up randomly. Over the weekend, I asked the question of which of the following 10 items could you give up forever in exchange for true personal marijuana freedom for just yourself for the rest of your life. And the results are quite interesting. Tobacco was the number one thing people said they could give up for the rest of their life if they would never get arrested, fined, or fired for using cannabis, with 71% of the people saying they could give up tobacco forever. 62% of Stash respondents said they could give up alcohol, 54% could give up aspirin and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like Tylenol, Aleve, or Advil. 50% said they could give up fast food, 38% caffeine, 21% television, 15% would give up meat and animal products for life, 11% would give up driving, 4% would give up the internet, and there's actually 3% of you stashers out there that would give up sex for the rest of your life if you were never arrested, fined, or fired for marijuana. Quite an interesting poll, and we'll have plenty more of them coming up on the Daily Audio Stash, so check in every day and see if there's a new poll for you to answer. You can also visit the polls archive at stash.normal.org/polls archive to find out what all the stashers have answered to all the previous polls. Now, coming up on today's stash, in order to get us ready for the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards, I'm bringing you my interview with NORML founder Keith Strop, who attended last year's awards, and some of his thoughts about that. Also, for our Government at Work section today, we're going to be replaying our interview with Ed Orlett from Ohio, talking about the potential for medical marijuana bills in Ohio in the next legislative session. All that, plus your hemp headlines and your musical break, makes it your NORML Daily Audio Stash.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Now it's time to take a look at the latest stories about marijuana from news organizations across America and around the world in our normal daily audio stash, Hemp Headlines. Grand jury to indict 3 New York Police Department officers for sodomizing subway pot smoker. From the Raw Story. A grand jury has reportedly decided to indict 3 police officers over allegations that a man was sodomized with a police baton after being seen smoking marijuana outside a Brooklyn subway station last October. The victim, Michael Mineo, claims that Officer Richard Kern sodomized him with a collapsible police baton while the other cops held him down after they chased him into the subway. But instead of being arrested, Mineo was let go with a summons for disorderly conduct. The Associated Press now reports that the 3 patrolmen will surrender after having been notified that they face criminal charges in the case. Mineo, who says he still suffers pain from his injury, told the New York Post, quote, "I'm looking forward to my day in court. This man doesn't deserve to be on the street. I want him to go to jail," end quote. The Daily News revealed last month that New York City paid $50,000 earlier this year to settle a police brutality suit brought against Kern and another officer. Mineo's doctors testified to his injuries before the grand jury, and the jurors were particularly convinced by evidence that Mineo's DNA had been found on a piece of equipment belonging to Officer Kern. You'd think that after the Abner Louima case and the subsequent $8.5 million civil suit that the New York Police Department would have cracked down on these sadistic bastards who seem to think that torture rape is a legitimate way to interrogate suspected criminals. How in the world could police officers react to a cannabis smoker as if he were some sort of animal to be beaten, something less than human to be sodomized and tortured? Some sort of evil demon deserving of no basic human dignity. Do you suppose dehumanizing ONDCP propaganda like stoners in the mist contributes anything to this anti-pot smoker mindset? After all, it's not a big leap to go from tagging stoners with radio collars to abusing them sexually for the thrill of torture. Attacking Alzheimer's with red wine and marijuana. From Alternet. 2 new studies suggest that substances usually associated with dulling the mind, marijuana and red wine, may help ward off Alzheimer's disease and other forms of age-related memory loss. Their addition comes as another study dethrones folk remedy ginkgo biloba as proof against the disease. At a November meeting of the Society of Neuroscience in Washington, D.C., researchers from Ohio State University reported that THC, the main psychoactive substance in the cannabis plant, may reduce inflammation in the brain and may even stimulate the formation of new brain cells. Meanwhile, in the November 21st issue of the Journal of Biological Chemistry, neurologist David Teplow of the University of California, Los Angeles, reported that polyphenols, naturally occurring components of red wine, block the formation of proteins that build the toxic plaques thought to destroy brain cells. In addition, these substances can reduce the toxicity of existing plaques, thus reducing cognitive deterioration. At Ohio State, researchers led by psychologist Gary Wenck are studying the protective effects of tetrahydrocannabinol, commonly known as THC. They found that administering a THC-like synthetic drug to older rats performed better at a memory test than a control group of non-medicated elderly rodents. In some of the rats, the drug apparently lowered inflammation in the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for short-term memory. It also seems to have stimulated the generation of new brain cells. Wank added 2 cautionary notes to his report. First, to be effective, any such treatment along these lines would have to take place before memory loss is obvious. Second, the researchers still have much work to do. He said, quote, "Could people smoke marijuana to prevent Alzheimer's disease if the disease is in the family? We're not saying that, but it might actually work. What we are saying is it appears that a safe legal substance that mimics those important properties of marijuana can work on receptors in the brain to prevent memory impairments in aging. So that's really hopeful." End quote. I think the obvious late-night comic joke would be, researchers have found that smoking marijuana may help prevent Alzheimer's disease. But how could you tell? This is fantastic research. Now, I'm not a pothead. I'm staving off Alzheimer's disease. However, I really hate the taste of red wine, so I better double down on the THC. But seriously, think about all the older stoners you know. Keith Strop, age 64, Richard Cowan, age 68, Jack Harrer, age 69, Tommy Chong, age 70, Willie Nelson, age 75, and you'll find people whose minds are still sharp. I can't think of anybody who was a regular cannabis consumer in their youth and middle age who suffers from Alzheimer's disease in their golden years, or even any appreciable level of senility. Missoula marijuana arrests up despite lowest priority initiative. A report released Wednesday suggests a jump in marijuana offenses in Missoula County compared to last year, despite the passage in 2006 of Initiative 2, the Marijuana Initiative, which made adult misdemeanor marijuana offenses the county's lowest law enforcement priority. Marijuana incidents in the city of Missoula, the county, and on the University of Montana campus are up 27%, the report estimates, 63% in the city alone. The numbers are stark enough for the Community Oversight Committee that compiled the report to conclude, quote, "The voters' recommendation is apparently being ignored by most of the officials in a position to heed it." End quote. John Masterson, chair of the committee and director of Montana NORML, says it should be disappointing to the 55% of voters in Missoula County and the 80% of voters in some city precincts that voted for the initiative. But no matter the vote margin, Missoula Chief of Police Mark Moore says nothing's being ignored. It's a county, not city, initiative. Quote, "The initiative itself never gave any direction to municipal government, period." End quote. But peruse through the cases and you'll see police officers are looking awfully hard for marijuana, Masterson says. He cites one case where pot residue was lifted from a vehicle console with white tape, and another in which a man was busted with less than 1/100th of a gram. I get into a lot of discussions with law enforcement types regarding marijuana. My eldest female cousin and her husband are both county sheriff's deputies in the conservative Idaho County where I was born. They believe the laws requiring them to investigate and arrest cannabis smokers are a ridiculous waste of their time. They'd prefer to spend their time going after meth, a big problem in that area. One of the most often heard justifications they and other law enforcement types give me is, "We don't make the laws, we just enforce them." I've always found this to be a cop-out, pardon the pun, because officers have a great deal of latitude in policing crime. Officers will let people go 5 to 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. They typically ignore jaywalking. They'll often look the other way when enforcement of a violation or misdemeanor is too much of a distraction from protecting the public safety. When you ask a cop about the anti-cannabis laws, he might say, "We don't make the laws, we just enforce them," which is supposed to mean, "I think this law is stupid and I wish I didn't have to enforce it, but it's my job to bust you." But when the citizens make laws that would allow the police to look the other way, like in Missoula County or Denver, Colorado, suddenly that pro-cannabis law isn't in such strict need of enforcement. Apparently they don't make the laws, but they do pick and choose which ones they want to enforce. Furthermore, when citizens make laws that remove the mandate to arrest cannabis consumers, like this year in Massachusetts or Michigan, we see law enforcement actively campaigning against such pro-cannabis laws. Apparently, they don't make the laws, but they do lobby against the laws they don't want to enforce.
Hello, Chicago!
Barack Obama has been elected the 44th President of the United States. But will he bring us, the cannabis community, the change we can believe in?
It's an issue of doctors prescribing medical marijuana. I think that should be appropriate.
NORML is asking you to take action and help us hold President-elect Obama to his word with our $10,000 pro-cannabis law reform ad contest.
When I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Just make a 30 or 60-second video or flash animation that answers the question, what should President Obama do about pot? You can submit as many entries as you like, and winning videos will be featured on NORML's website and television campaigns.
What I'm not going to be doing is using Justice Department resources to try to circumvent state laws on this issue.
The grand prize is $3,500, so enter early and enter often.
Well, I would not punish doctors if it's prescribed. That may require some changes in federal law.
Contest deadline is January 15th, 2009. Check NORML.org for official contest rules.
The war on drugs has been a utter failure, and I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
President Obama, we couldn't agree more. Tuesday is our look at your government at work here at the Audio Stash. While the inevitable re-legalization of cannabis hemp will have to happen at the federal level, the steps leading to that destination take place at the state and municipal levels. We focus in on the initiatives, bills, and amendments regarding cannabis across all 50 states, and what activists like you are doing to enact a positive reform to our cruel and outdated marijuana laws. If you're working hard to make an impact in your city and state, please email us at stash@normal.org and let's share your local efforts with the worldwide cannabis community. Together, we can affect our government at work.
Pollution rises high into the sky. How can we still deny the truth?
In the wake of this 2008 election where we had 9 out of 10 pro-marijuana measures pass on the ballot, there are states and localities all around the country that are scrambling now to get measures on their ballot or through their legislatures that would ease the marijuana laws for medical users and maybe do some reform on the other users of marijuana. So we're going to look now to the great state of Ohio, and we're joined by Ed Orlett from Drug Policy Alliance Ohio. You can look them up at www.drugpolicy.org. And Ed, thanks for joining us here on the Daily Audio Stash.
My pleasure, Russ.
Now, I understand tomorrow there's a really important meeting for your Ohio, is it the legislature there?
Yes, the Ohio legislature. This will be a meeting of the Senate Judiciary Criminal Justice Committee tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Oh, okay. And what's on the agenda for discussion there?
Two bills that we're very interested in. One is Senate Bill 343, which does enact a statutory mechanism to regulate and authorize the medical use of marijuana by qualifying patients. And the other is a sentencing reform bill that's been working its way through this General Assembly for almost 2 years. It was brought by the administration. It's to try to keep our prison populations from just exploding and it also does some good things as far as drug offenses.
Okay, well, let's look at the SB 343, the medical marijuana bill. I know in the Midwest now we're looking at hopefully better chances of getting these bills passed, because of Michigan's success. Michigan actually passed their medical marijuana bill in all 83 counties, which is very promising. How does the groundwork look for Ohio and your legislature's support of medical marijuana?
In all candor, Russ, we still have a lot of education to do. This bill that is being heard tomorrow has been pending since May, and it's a very comprehensive bill. It's nothing, outlandish in it. It's pretty straightforward. I was looking over the Michigan initiative, and it's very similar to it in many ways, but still, speaking very practically, the legislature here adjourns on sometime between now and the end of the year, and in all probability, this is going to be the only hearing this bill will get this year. There's always a possibility of a second hearing, but they have so much on their platter, I'm not expecting that. And of course, the bill, as I understand it from the sponsor and from advocates, will be reintroduced in the next session, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. So for tomorrow's hearing, and this hearing, by the way, is at 10 a.m. at the Senate Judiciary Criminal Justice Committee at the State House there in Ohio. And I was just also wondering, as far as getting these bills passed here, if it would help to have any public coming down to testify to their use of medical marijuana or anything like that, or just maybe for some visible support.
Anyone can attend, and if they wish, can give testimony. All they have to do is come to the hearing. I suggest if they want to testify, they come early so they can fill what's a witness slip, and then when the bill is called for a hearing, and I'm not sure if there's only 3 bills up, so it won't take too long to get to it. Then the chairman of the committee, which is Senator Grendell, he will call the witnesses normally in the chronological order that they arrived. And the Ohio Patients Advocates Network, that has been one of the leading proponents of this legislation and helped to get it in the Senate and get a hearing for it, they have lined up 3, I don't want to say expert witnesses, but let me say professional. They have a doctor and they have 2 nurses who practice, who work with patients who could use or have used medical marijuana. So they have, I think, a very good lineup. And of course, it's an open public hearing, and anyone can come and testify if they feel they have something to contribute that would, be positive.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage any Ohioans out there that are in need of medical marijuana, that have a personal story to tell, to get out there and tell that story, because when you put a human face on this, it's a lot harder for legislators to believe the lies and the propaganda that come out against medical marijuana, when you're looking at someone who can really benefit from it. Now, the other bill that we're looking at, this one's on the House side, House Bill 130, a criminal sentencing reform bill. What are some of the reforms that bill would enact in Ohio statute?
Well, first of all, Russ, this bill has passed the House and is now appearing for its first hearing in the Senate, also in the same committee. It recognizes that people with drug offenses a lot of times have not committed any other crime. They're not violent, and so it would provide a vehicle for the courts to give those people more of a chance to avoid going to prison by offering them a treatment program.
Oh.
And that's the primary feature we're interested in. But it does some other things as far as post-release programs to try to keep people from coming back to prison, as we know a lot of them do, unfortunately.
That's excellent. Now, I imagine Ohio must be like other states right now that are having a real trouble with their state budgets and maybe, building more prisons than universities. Is that the situation in Ohio?
That is exactly the situation. How we have been fortunate in that we have not had to build any additional prisons now in a number of years. But in the 80s, after the emphasis was placed on drug crimes, and particularly during the crack epidemic, we did build certainly more prisons than we were building colleges. And, of course, we're now have the burden of operating those.
Yeah.
And it does take a lot of money that could be much better used for education.
All right. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. At the State House, is there a particular office room?
It'll be in the Senate office building, North Hearing Room.
Okay. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. Hearings on SB 343 for medical marijuana, HB 130 for criminal sentencing reform, and Ed Orlett is with the Drug Policy Alliance of Ohio. Do you guys have any websites, email addresses, or phone numbers you'd like to give out for people to get more information?
They certainly can look at the website that you mentioned at the beginning, www.drugpolicy.org. They can feel free to call our office, which is 614-257-1356.
All right. Excellent. And Ed Orlett, thank you so much for standing up for the rights of medical marijuana patients and fighting for some change, some positive change in the state of Ohio. We appreciate you joining us here on The Stash.
Thank you, Russ.
I'm Alan St. Pierre, Executive Director of NORML. Have you heard about the new super pot that's supposedly 20 times more potent than your father's Woodstock weed? Don't believe the hype. Marijuana's THC potency has always varied, even in the 60s and 70s. And the drug czar's numbers are full of, well, exaggerations. While no intoxicant is harmless, cannabis is non-toxic and far safer than alcohol. No matter how much you smoke, of whatever potency, you cannot die of a marijuana overdose. Potency is irrelevant anyway. More potent pot just means you smoke less of it, meaning less harmful smoke in your lungs. This is a prime example of harm reduction in action. Besides, the government already allows the prescription of THC pills. Its commercial brand name is Marinol, and it's 100% potent. Meanwhile, the federal government won't allow dying people to use natural marijuana, no matter what the potency. Does this make sense to you? Learn the facts about pot. Visit NORML.org today.
Here at the NORML Daily Audio Stash, we work hard to change our nation's marijuana laws through education and discussion. But we also take time to relax and unwind with an eclectic mix of pod-safe music from many independent artists. We look for music that speaks to the growing truth about cannabis, or music that speaks to broader themes of freedom, liberty, social justice, equality, and protest. To find out more about the artists and download the music you hear on this podcast, just log on to stash.normal.org. And if you'd like to get your music heard by the online cannabis community, just send us an email at stash@normal.org. Hey, Stashers, I've got good news and bad news. First, the good news. My brother, Less Than Radical Josh, has started his new full-time job at the THC Foundation's medical marijuana clinic here in Portland. The bad news is that my musical director, Less Than Radical Josh, has a new full-time job that prevents him from adding more music to the stash. That means more work for me. Yikes. Both Josh and Cannabis Carry will be stopping by from time to time to drop some new tunes, but for now, you've got me. So I'm digging up the latest CD from Suburban Noise Records artists Cottonmouth Kings. The latest CD is called The Green Album, and we already played the track Pack Your Bowls back on Halloween. The latest track that we're playing today is called Where I'm Going. Check out cottonmouthkings.com for more information, including tour dates and music downloads. This is Cottonmouth Kings with Where I'm Going.
I'm walking the fence between wrong and right, trying to keep a level head and keep my goals inside. But it's hard as hell in this world today. Friends I know for many years started acting strange. Things I cared about before seem to fade away. You know I'm left with these questions of when this would change. When is this train gonna get back on track? When am I even gonna care about that? Why am I the one who's always dealt the bad cards? Took the easy road so long and now my life's hard. Still I try to make it work out for the best, and I know I gotta clean up all this mess. If I knew when it started where this all would end, with my woman living free. Stay in my path, follow my road, do all the right things to achieve my goals. Pursue my dreams in this life I lead. Become who I want, when I want, anytime I please. I know where I'm going, if I keep it on track. It's all laid down, only time will tell. I pray to the Lord, hoping nothing in the back. Now I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I went from having little to having a lot. I went from buying weed to growing pot. Says I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I seen some people cry 'cause loved ones died. I looked at people's eyes and told some lies, yeah. Where will we go? Where will we go from here? Where will we go? Where will we go from here? I've been criticized for speaking my mind, been baptized in lies and giving bad advice. Here's a word to the wise, never compromise. Watch your back as you watch your ends multiply. Look a man in his eyes and never say die. Keep your eye on the prize, you'll stay in the ride. I'm a king worldwide, my roots stay in the ground. I've been high to glass, but I always rebound. I outlet quick, live life in the fast lane. Inbound, outbound, my stride don't change. Stay true to myself, 'cause I created again. Got the whole world jumping like the house of pain. Jump, now I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I went from having little to having a lot. I went from buying weed to growing pot. Says I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I seen some people cry 'cause loved ones died. I looked at people's eyes and told some lies, yeah. Now I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I went from having little to having a lot. I went from buying weed to growing pot. Says I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I've been. I seen some people cry 'cause loved ones died. I looked at people's eyes and told some lies, yeah.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Will. I don't work at a used record store. I don't own an iguana, although I'm sure they make great pets. I don't have dreadlocks or play the acoustic guitar. I can remember quite well, thank you, and no, I don't constantly have the munchies. When 420 comes around, I've still got 40 minutes of work left. I've never hit a girl on a bike with my car or shot my friend with a shotgun. I've never had to apologize for letting a girl I was watching drown in a pool while I was getting high because, duh, I wouldn't be getting high if I was around children. I'm a regular guy who works regular jobs, just like the majority of all Americans who use marijuana occasionally and responsibly. My name is Will, and I'm normal.
We're with Keith Stott, the founder of NORML from way back in 1970, right?
Yeah, 1970. We were younger men then. You were probably like in grade school or something.
I was 2.
I'm embarrassed to admit that. but it is interesting that the issue is significant. It wouldn't exist this long otherwise. Now, I'm sorry in a way that, they used to ask us in the early 1970s how long we thought it would take before we would win, and I foolishly used to say 1977 or something like that. It was like a silly-ass thing. I was being cute. But obviously, here we are 37 years later, and we've won some of it, but we haven't won everything we need to win, obviously. But think about what that means, that all these years later, really serious, bright people are still dedicating their life to saying, it's time we turn this thing around.
Yeah.
And we will. I have no doubt. I almost feel a little guilt. It's like my generation, I think, let us down. We were the ones that first smoked in big ways, but when we somehow, I don't know, we got older, we got conservative, I'm not sure what happened.
I remember growing up and just becoming aware in the late 70s and watching Saturday Night Live and Face, and the jokes about
How could we lose? How could we lose?
I thought for sure by the time I turned 18, it would be fine.
So did
You'll let me down.
So did I. I guess part of what I'm proud about is that there is a subculture in this country that despite the culture, even with Reagan, there were periods where it was pretty conservative. Not now. Right now it's actually kind of accepting of us and stuff. But there were periods where it was kind of tough to stand up for this. And there were still a lot of people standing up. But having said that, of course I'm disappointed. I mean, I thought we should have won it a long time ago. We will. I am absolutely convinced that when people of my generation step aside or retire or die, they're going to be replaced by younger people who, whether they smoke or not, doesn't really matter. They're familiar with marijuana smoking. It doesn't frighten them.
Yeah, they're not
bring
scared.
for madness. Yeah. And so they react racely to it, which means, of course, you don't lock people up for that stuff. So we're going to win it. And it's funny, in the end, we probably are going to win it because we outlived the bastards.
I make a joke, it's like the last two presidents and last two presidential candidates, the mayor of New York, all smoked marijuana. I don't want to smoke that. I might turn out, successful? what's the harm again? I'm lost.
No, you're absolutely right. What I actually spend most of my time in these older years doing is when I have a chance, I actually stand up and say there's absolutely nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. So let's get over it. I mean, in fact, for most of it, it's been a positive experience. My life has been enhanced by my marijuana smoking, and so is probably yours, probably a lot of these people. So maybe we need to learn to get the courage to say that and to say, back off. I mean, quit acting like if you smoke a joint, there's something wrong with you. Frankly, you're probably a half a step ahead of everybody else.
Well, it'd be the sensible thing to do if you're trying to take care of your health. That's
without question.
Yeah. Now, this is your first time at the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards. So what's your impressions of coming to Oregon and the culture we have going on here?
I actually think it is the finest of the 50 states. And I mean, there are a handful of states that are very good on marijuana generally. They're progressive. They're sensitive to smokers. They're good about medical use. But I don't think any of them have gone legal to the extent that you have in Oregon. You people have gone to the trouble to pass laws and get amendments passed and play with regulations. So it's not perfect. I mean, let me tell you, I heard some of the stuff today. I agree with it. I mean, I really do believe that. It's better than California. It's better than Washington. It's better. I really think it is the best place to be if you're a medical marijuana user, is right here in your state. So you guys should feel pretty proud. I think you've done a great job. I want to say something further, if you're willing. I think that what you guys have done, and maybe you didn't intend it, and maybe other states didn't, but it's happening with medical marijuana, you have actually established a version of legalization. It's not perfect, and it's not the way we would define it. I would rather not ask a doctor for permission.
It's starting to rain.
Oh, are we going in? Okay. But I just want to say that you have done in Oregon, you have essentially legalized marijuana, and it's working pretty well.
The world hasn't just crashed down.
That's right. So even though it ain't perfect, boy, it's something to be proud of.
Thank you, Keith. We're all being hustled back inside, as is usual here in Oregon. It's beginning to rain. So for the NORML Daily Audio Stash and Oregon NORML, I'm Radical Russ Belville, Associate Director of Oregon NORML, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for downloading the NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. We are produced by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. Our executive producer is Alan St. Pierre. Our deputy director is Paul Armentano. Our webmaster is Brian Judy. And web production is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. As always, you can catch up on the latest information about marijuana at www.norml.org. And you can interact and download from our Audio Stash blog at stash.norml.org. For everyone here at NORML, I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, hoping all your harvests are bountiful and your encounters with law enforcement are non-existent. We leave you today with another one of our cannabis quotes, this one from outgoing President George W. Bush, when speaking to a group of students once said, quote, "Now, I'm president. It would be pretty hard for some drug guy to come into the White House and start offering it up, you know. I bet if they did, I hope I would say, hey, get lost. We don't want any of that." End quote. You hope you would say? What, you don't have control over the... Oh, never mind. You don't have control over the things you say. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here for the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.